A pleasant day to you, sir. My name is Noemie Delgado and I am from BSBA 3A and I will be discussing the International Trade Agreement case, which is entitled Philippines-Saudi Arabia Bilateral Labor Agreement Renewal of 2022. So, a small or a context to this case is that bilateral labor agreement is a significant development to protect overseas Filipino workers, especially in Saudi Arabia, which host over 800,000 Filipino workers. This updated agreement introduced measures like wage protection, dispute resolution mechanisms, and mandatory health insurance to address issues such as wage theft, abuse, and poor working conditions. Despite improvements, challenges remain in enforcing these provisions due to limited monitoring, slow grievance resolutions, and ongoing violations. That is why there is a this bilateral agreement has a conflict kay imbes nga masunod ang katong mga gipang istorya nga kanang protection, social protection towards the workers, naaman hinuoy mga cases gihapon nga mga kanabitang resulted cases bitaw nga gipang abuse gihapon ng mga workers didto, walay sakto nga sweldo and poor gid kaya ang ilahang working conditions kay imbes mag-work og 8 hours mas daghan pa like mo work sila og almost 17 hours inana, so which is very kana ang inhuman jud siya sa kanaang ato ang mga Filipino workers. And then here I will be giving a proposed alternative solutions so that this case will be solved. And in here, ang katong agreement, it aims to protect from issues no kato akong gipang istorya. First is the wage protection, dapat regular and on time ang sahod. And then second is grievance and dispute resolution mechanisms, is dapat is mapaspas bitaw ang pag-resolve sa mga complaints. Mo ni siya nga dapat buhatan nato og alternative solutions. Third is the mandatory insurance, so workers have health coverage in case of illness or injury. Pero in honest opinion is daghan paghihapog mga challenges ani nga case kay ngano ang pag-monitor is very hard, and then dili gihapon jud sila like nag-monitor man pero sato lang di jud bitaw nga kanang on time jud nga pag-monitor kung okay ra ba tong mga Filipino workers dito, so mo na siya dapat ma-address. So in addition with the context that I was able to discuss, here is the history of the labor migration in the Philippines and Saudi Arabia. So these two countries have long-standing labor relations, with Saudi Arabia being one of the top destinations for overseas Filipino workers or OFWs. So as of 2021, there were around 1.7 million OFWs in Saudi Arabia, primarily employed in construction, domestic work, and other service sectors. So the relationship dates back to the 1970s, when the Philippines began sending workers to the Gulf region, so responding to labor demands in the Middle East. In the previous bilateral labor agreements back then in 2013, the Philippines and Saudi Arabia signed the first bilateral agreement on domestic worker recruitment, establishing Filipino or protections for Filipino workers in the kingdom. And then this agreement mandated minimum wage requirements, ensure proper working conditions, and implemented mechanisms for resolving labor disputes. So, unsa may nahitabo why these things leads to the 2022 renewal. So, in November 2021, the Philippines imposed a temporary ban on the deployment of OFWs to Saudi Arabia. This was due to reports of maltreatment and unpaid wages affecting Filipino workers. And there were thousands of workers who have been affected by these situations happened. So this is why it became a conflict and has resulted to the renewal of the agreement. And after months of negotiations and efforts to improve conditions for OFWs, both nations revisited the existing labor agreement. The ban was lifted on November 2022 following the successful renegotiation and renewal of the labor agreement. So the key provisions of the 2022 agreement is first, enhanced worker protection. The renewed agreement focused on ensuring the welfare and safety of OFWs, particularly domestic workers. And then the grievance mechanism. It includes provisions for dispute resolution, giving OFWs easier access to legal resource if they face issues with their employees. Third is the regularization of wages. So the agreement also emphasizes the timely payment of wages, addressing one of the critical concerns that led to the temporary ban. So important and significance of this case is that this renewal marks a crucial step in safeguarding the rights of Filipino workers abroad. So especially in the Gulf region where they face vulnerabilities due to the differences in the labor laws and practices. So it also reflects the strengthening of the diplomatic and economic ties between the Philippines and Saudi Arabia, with labor migration being a cornerstone of their bilateral relationship. So the 2022 renewal continues the evolving dynamics between the two, pero these things nga nahitabo is not enough nga na ay labor agreement nga nahitabo because wala man gyapon na address kay there are certain cases nga nagpamatuod nga wala man gihapon sila nasweldohan og tarong, gimaltrato gihapon sila sa ilang mga amo. Ang uban gani is ma-report gani na siya sa kaniang kuan gani kanang sa mga news bitaw, makita nimo dito nga they are not being treated right. Some solutions nga I really think na practical to use is first is mag-establish og worker support and advocacy center for legal aid and counseling. So second one is a digital platform for OFW to report issues real time. And then three is pre-deployment training para makahibaw sila sa ilang mga rights o how to report these problems. And so I will be discussing a smart action plan for my alternative solution in decision to what alternatives or specific alternative solution that I will be using for this case. Now, for the alternative solution, I really wanted to focus on the first alternative solutions that I was able to come up with, which is the establishment of Worker Support and Assistance Center. So, this center, kay mahimo ni siyang go-to place para sa mga Filipino workers sa Saudi Arabia. Like, if na mga issues like salary delays or contract violations, this center will kanaang stand as a accessible place kung asa makasumbong nga ato ang mga Filipino workers, di ba? So the second one is measurable. So the metrics and outreach. Next, kinahanglan measurable ang ato ang success. So mag-track og operational metrics like pila na ka workers ang natabangan or cases na na-resolve, plus magdu og outreach activities para ma-educate ang mga workers about their rights and responsibilities. So in short, di lang action but klaro pod ang results. Third is attainable. So funding and collaboration. It is very important that we have to understand nga na ay mga funds nga gamiton in order to establish this center. So I really wanted to push through on a plan nga ang Philippines as well as Saudi Arabia will collaborate para magtinabangay sa funds because two countries benefit from one another, di ba? So since it is a bilateral agreement, they both have the responsibilities to help our Filipino workers. And then second is the staffing. So here, dapat ang atong ibutang diri nga mga staff sa agencies is those personnel who has the credibility or has the authority and understanding on legal basis documents bitaw. Syempre para matabangan na nga to ang mga workers, di ba? And then, fourth is relevance. So, addressing issues, of course, dapat ang important things na center should do is to focus on solving the problems or issues like katong mga mention ganina, like unpaid wages, unsafe work, and contract problems in order for us to ensure and secure sa ato ang mga Filipino workers. And then fifth is time bound. Lastly, set up and reporting. So kinahanglan timely ang actions like mag-initial setup and then mag-review sa operations regularly, like kung kumustahon ang ato ang mga workers, if they are treated right, if those kana ang mga mandated under the agreement are really nasunod, di ba? So dapat na-adjud tay mga feedback or natay mga basta mga feedback para ma-ensure nato nga sakto jud ang ilaha nga kuan didto, maayo ang ilang kahimtang didto. And mag-submit sila og quarterly reports para updated both governments. So para kana bitong both countries will have kanang improve strong relationship ba, and naay progress. So this center or alternative solution will be suit sa ato ang case for the international trade agreement for Philippines and Saudi Arabia. And that would be all. Thank you.